She thought it was just another day, until a cop stopped her on the street. He laughed, mocked her, and belittled her for the color of her skin. He never imagined that behind her quiet strength was a truth that could shatter his arrogance in seconds. What happens when the person you ridicule isn't as powerless as you think? This isn't just one girl's story. It's a glimpse into a deeper injustice we're still fighting today. For 16-year-old Maya, life was about school, friends, and dreaming big. She carried herself with quiet confidence, shaped by a family that believed in discipline and respect. Her mother, an accomplished Army colonel, had always reminded her that dignity mattered even when the world tried to take it away. That afternoon felt like any other. The sun hung low, casting long shadows on the sidewalks as Maya left a small bookstore downtown. She clutched her bag close, earbuds playing her favorite music, unaware of the storm about to unfold. To her, it was just another walk home, a routine she knew by heart. But routine has a way of breaking when the wrong eyes are watching. Parked at the corner, a police cruiser idled, its engine rumbling low. Inside sat an officer with a hardened stare, his gaze fixed not on the street, but on her. Maya didn't notice. She had no reason to. She wasn't breaking the law, she wasn't loitering, she was simply existing. What she didn't know was that sometimes existing while black is all it takes to be seen as a threat. The silence of the neighborhood was about to be shattered, and the walk home she'd done 100 times before would soon turn into an encounter she would never forget. Maya's steps slowed when she felt it, the heavy gaze that pierced through her music. She glanced up. The cruiser door swung open and an officer stepped out, his boots striking the pavement with deliberate force. His voice cut through the air, sharp and commanding. "Hey, you, stop right there." Confused, Maya pulled out her earbuds. Her heart skipped. Why me? She wasn't jaywalking, she wasn't loitering. She was just a teenager walking home. But the officer's eyes told a different story, one that had nothing to do with rules and everything to do with prejudice. He circled her like a hawk, demanding to know where she was going, what she was carrying, and why she thought she belonged in this neighborhood. Each question dripped with mockery, as though her very presence was suspicious. When Maya tried to answer, her voice cracked, not from guilt, but from the sting of being treated like a criminal for simply existing. Then came the laugh, cold, cutting, and laced with arrogance. "What are you going to do? Call your mommy?" he sneered. "What is she, a nurse? A maid? You think anyone's going to believe you over me?" Maya's fists tightened around her bag. Anger burned inside, but fear weighed heavier. She thought of her mother's words, "Stay calm, stay respectful." Yet the humiliation was suffocating. The cop leaned closer, mocking every word she spoke, making a spectacle of her silence. His smirk grew wider, feeding off her discomfort. Passerbys walked past, some glancing, others pretending not to see. Their silence echoed louder than his taunts. Maya felt invisible and exposed all at once, a teenager stripped of dignity in broad daylight. But then, with a trembling breath, she found the courage to speak. "My mom's in the army," she said quietly, almost to herself. The officer threw back his head and laughed even harder. His voice carried down the block. "The army? Please! What's next? You going to tell me she's a general?" His laughter wasn't just cruel, it was dismissive, the kind that said, "You'll never matter." Maya's cheeks burned, but deep inside she clung to the truth, because she knew something he didn't. Her mother wasn't just in the army. She was a decorated colonel, a woman who had faced wars abroad and carried herself with honor. And at that very moment, fate was about to put them face to face. As the officer smirked, towering over Maya with false power, a new sound broke the tension, the crunch of boots on pavement, steady, firm, and unmistakably authoritative. Maya turned her head. The cop followed her gaze, and what she saw next would drain the arrogance from his face in an instant. The boots drew closer, their rhythm steady and unyielding. The officer's laughter faltered as he turned, and there she was, Colonel Harris. Uniform pressed sharp, metals gleaming faintly under the late sun, a presence that commanded silence without a word. Maya's chest tightened with relief, but the officer's smirk only twitched into a nervous grin. "And who might you be?" he asked, trying to mask the crack in his voice. Her mother's eyes didn't waver. She stepped forward, her voice calm but laced with steel. "I'm the woman whose daughter you decided to humiliate." The street seemed to shrink. Every bystander who had pretended not to notice now couldn't look away. The officer shifted on his feet, his authority slipping like sand through his fingers. Still, he tried to recover. "Ma'am, I was just doing my job." But the colonel cut him off, her tone sharp as a blade. "Your job? Your job is to protect, to serve, not to belittle a child for the color of her skin." Her words hit harder than any shout could. The officer's face reddened. He stammered, glancing at the uniform, the rank, the authority staring him down. In that moment, the power he thought he had evaporated. The same voice he mocked now belonged to someone who had defended the very country he wore a badge for. Maya stood frozen, torn between anger and pride. She had never seen her mother like this, not just as her parent, but as a force no prejudice could diminish. The silence stretched, heavy and unbearable. The officer looked from Maya to her mother, his arrogance drained, replaced by something he never expected to feel in front of the people he had mocked. Fear. And in that fear-filled pause, the entire street seemed to ask the same question. What happens when truth stands face to face with hate? The officer's arrogance had collapsed into silence, but the damage was already done. For Maya, the sting of his words lingered far deeper than the moment itself. Yes, her mother's presence had shifted the power in an instant, but no uniform, no rank, could erase the reality that she had been seen as less than human until proven otherwise. The crowd that once turned away now stood in an uneasy stillness, some embarrassed by their silence, others whispering about what they had just witnessed. The cop mumbled an apology, but it rang hollow, forced out by authority rather than genuine remorse. Maya knew it wasn't just his voice that mattered. It was the system that allowed his behavior to feel normal in the first place. That night at home, Maya replayed every moment. The humiliation, the laughter, the way fear wrapped itself around her chest until her mother appeared. And she realized something painful but undeniable. She had survived, but countless others hadn't. Her story wasn't isolated. It was a mirror of stories repeated in neighborhoods across the country. Kids stopped for fitting a description, families broken by traffic stops that turned deadly, lives stolen because of bias disguised as law. For Maya, the lesson was clear. Silence doesn't protect you. Strength isn't always enough, and injustice will never correct itself. It has to be challenged. So the question remains, not just for Maya, not just for her mother, but for all of us. How many more times will this story have to play out before we finally decide that enough is enough?